How to start a website for your business? We're going to answer that question in this video. Okay, let's rock. How to start a website. That's a good question and something that if you're going to get a business, you're going to need, and you're going to need a good one. And what's important is that you actually determine what direction you're going to go long term when you're going to build your website. You know, there's some template websites out there that are great, absolutely great if you're going to sell products and things like that. I'm sure you've probably heard of Shopify. If you haven't heard of Shopify, look them up. There's another one like Wix. Wix.com is another great one. Well, most of my businesses have custom created websites from scratch. So basically we hired designers to build them and in a sense, get them hosted. And so the things that you have to understand about having a website, we're gonna go over in this video. Number one is, who are you gonna host it with, right? Well, let's actually backtrack before we go to that. Have you registered your domain yet? That's important. So whatever your name of your business is, say .com or .net or .org, that's actually step one. You're gonna wanna make sure that you register your business website as soon as possible, because every day there's new people thinking of new ideas and your actual website might get taken. It's one of the most saddening things when you go to a website like GoDaddy and you try to register a website and it's already taken. And you can do one of two things if it's taken. You can either A, buy it, which the person's gonna want probably a lot more money, or B, get on a waiting list, which you never know indefinitely if that's ever gonna be for sale. If it comes for sale, then you might have to pay still a fee for it and then have to wait for a transitional period while it goes from the old owner to yours, etc. So get your domain registered. What's really neat, I use GoDaddy. If you go to GoDaddy.com and you look at the top of their homepage, there's a search box and you can type in, let's say you're Bob's Restaurant. So you would look up bobsrestaurant.com. It's probably taken. If it's not, and that wants to be your restaurant, go on and register it now. But it'll usually give you associated similar type of options if it's taken. So it'd say Bob's Restaurant is taken, bobsrestaurant.com is taken, and then it'll say, but these are available. And they'll list them. It might be bobsrestaurant.net, .org, .whatever. And if you don't know this, the .com, that's the gold. You want to try your best to have a .com. Even if you have to change the name before the .com, I think it's better to change the name before .com than have to register a .net or .info or .org or whatever. And .org is usually for charitable websites and organizations. So I wouldn't register your business as a .org. That would be very misleading. So step one, before you start thinking about your website, is get your domain registered. It usually costs about $9 or $10 a year if you don't add any add-ons, which they're going to try to hit you with, like privacy this or add this. But what's great about GoDaddy is they have some of the greatest customer service. And so if you have any questions, you can call their number, you can email their support. They're very great to help you out. So once you know your website domain, now you've got to host it. So now we're going to go back to what I originally started with before I forgot to talk about registering the domain, and that is where to host it. So you can go to GoDaddy, they can host your website. And there's other independent companies where you can buy server space and things like that and do things like co-locating. I've done that before, where we physically bought our own servers. I think we bought them from Dell back in those days. And then we found a company that allowed us to take our servers into their server room and basically plug in on a server rack. And they had all the bandwidth and everything, all the juice basically pushed into the website, and we co-located. That was the location back, or the term back then. I'm sure that they still do plenty of co-locating server companies all over, but that's more technical. You would need somebody, a friend, a family member, somebody that you know and you trust could help you go down that line. That's a very technical thing. And if you're a beginner and you don't have a lot of information with setting up websites, I would not recommend that. So how do you start it? Is figuring out what direction you want to go. So we talked about Shopify, we talked about Wix, and then we talked about you could go and set up a website with GoDaddy and have them host it. Once you have your website hosted, nothing really shows up. If you go to your bobsrestaurant.com, nothing's going to show up, assuming that, this is your new website and you've done nothing to it, right? Whatever your website is going to be, you're going to have to design it first. Now, you don't have to have technical skills, but what you can do is you can start getting out a piece of paper. I've done this before, and start drawing like what my homepage will look like. And I remember when we did this for our trading card business, Collector's Cash. We had several versions since the internet came out, basically in like the mid to late 90s. I remember having a good friend of mine at the time help design our very first website, and he did it. He went to Berkeley. He went to Berkeley in California, and he was studying neuroscience to be a brain surgeon, if I remember correctly. And this guy is one of the smartest people on planet Earth, and he was a friend and still a friend. And I said, hey, can you help me build this website? He said, yeah. And he figured it out on his own and built a website. So, I told him, we kind of designed it. We said, we're going to put, I think at the time we were selling Magic the Gathering and beanies and Pokemon and whatever. I said, yeah, let's put some logos here. And when they click on that, it goes to this. So they can buy, individual cards. They can buy supplies for the cards. They can buy packs, boxes, things like that. So you have to basically orchestrate and organize how all your pages are going to go. So you can do that. Some people, I've seen them, they'll get out a separate piece of paper for every single web page that they're going to design, and they like lay it out on the floor, and they're like, all right, step one at the top is my homepage. Here's all the stuff, all the graphics. At the bottom, I'm going to have my contact us section, my return policy and all that stuff. And at the top, I'm going to have my logo, and I'm going to have a banner. And they put all the categories. So they design that. And they say, okay, if I click on this category, where's that going to take me? And so then they take a piece of paper and they design that. And they lay out sometimes like 50 sheets of paper on a big floor, and they look at, and that's my website. And that's not a bad idea. And I'm sure there's programs that can help you do the same thing. You don't have to be, old fashioned and have physical pieces of paper. But if you like that, if that works for you, then do it. So start laying out your website, and then you have to find a web designer. You have to find somebody. Now, web designers, some of them, believe it or not, you got people that know how to code. You have graphic designers. They usually are not one and the same. Usually a graphic designer just designs graphics, pictures, things like that. They don't do the back-end code that's gonna run your website and power your website. That's a whole bunch of code, and there's different languages of code, right? So you could have like .asp, you could have PHP, there's all these different languages. So you would find somebody that's very experienced in whatever language of developing websites they're into, and hire them. So here's a couple things that I want you to consider when you're deciding whether or not you're going to go like the Shopify Wix route, or you're going to go like I did out on your own and basically develop your own websites. What I want you to decide is how long-term you're going to be in this business. Remember, as I'm teaching you all, I want you to think long-term. We're not setting you up and getting you into this business so that you can open up, tomorrow and be closed in 6 months, a year, or 2 years. We're thinking long-term. So if you're thinking long-term and you don't have a major company like Shopify supporting you, or GoDaddy or something like that, and you're trusting a friend or a family member, they're going to have the keys to your kingdom. You need to understand that, because I've been in that position before with a friend that basically helped code my websites, and I was always dependent on that one person. And heaven forbid something happened to him and he wasn't around, it wouldn't have been easy to transition. And he wrote the code. So another programmer that would come in and evaluate that code and look at it, it would be a disaster for them to try to carry on where he left off. And so you really need to understand that if you're going to trust somebody to do your website, you have to fully trust them, and you have to know that they're also going to be around long-term for you. Because if they leave you, it's tough to transition. You can find new people. They've got all the different websites of the world, the Fivers and, the TaskRabbits and all this, I guess TaskRabbit might not be the best example for websites, but, you can find a lot of people online that do things like that. So anyway, in closing, I want to not make this video too long. I want you to understand that when you're designing a website and you're setting up your website, if you're a novice, it's probably best to get a template-based website from a major company. That would be my recommendation. For those of you that are seasoned, that have already had a business or you've already had a website and you're used to it, and your next door neighbor or your friend has been running your website for years, you trust them, you know they're not going anywhere, great. That's perfect. That's a great situation, and they probably give you, killer service. The last thing I would say is there's a lot of shared platforms, and we're on one of those with one of my businesses where you get a website, you get a company that decides that they want to host all similar companies within an industry. And so they say, hey, we're going to set up software that basically is plug and play. So if they're going to do, say, the trading card business, everybody's going to sell the same trading cards, so they keep the same databases, right, for the singles and for the boxes and the packs, so that anybody that signs up with them can actually have a website set up and served with all the work that they've already done. It's kind of plug and play. The only thing you have to do is pay for design. So if you want your website to look a certain way, or you have a logo, you send it over to them, you pay them to help design it, and they set it up for you. So that's another route. So anyway, how to start a website for your business. I hope you found that question, this video, very helpful. There's obviously a lot more to websites, and we'll cover more in future videos, but I wanted to just give you a little bit of a teaser. So if you like the video, please like it, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to keep delivering and keep giving you all information as the days go on. So remember, keep pushing hard, and be the hustler.